Hi, I'm Dr. B. I was born in Spain. I grew up there, went to college there, and I have been living in this country for the last 46 years. So I'm aware I have an accent. Okay? Since I came to South Carolina, I have learned to speak slower, which helps my students. But many students have told me that they get used to my accent very quickly. Some have even told me that after a while, they forget I have an accent. They're not aware of that. It doesn't interfere. Okay? I will try to help as much as possible. You will notice all of my videos are going to have PowerPoints because that way you have something in writing that you can be reading. And should you choose to become one of my students, I have a number of files with step-by-step directions how to do something, worksheets to practice, everything that I can provide for you in writing when my accent does not become a problem. Are you intimidated by chemistry? Do you feel like, oh, you need to know so much math, chemistry is so difficult to understand? Or maybe you're taking biology and you're bored with memorizing facts. I'd like to show you that you don't need to know a lot of chemistry, and that biology is actually a fascinating story. There's nothing to be scared of, okay? If you are scared by chemistry, or if you're bored, you are exactly the kind of a student I enjoy helping. There's nothing that warms my heart like when I'm facing a student that doesn't understand something and is scared. And I explain whatever it is, and all of a sudden you can see the light come on, and the student smiles and says, that's not difficult at all. Exactly. Or if it's biology, you know what? That's awesome. That's what I like to do. Okay? And that's what I like to do for you. If I was going to hire a tutor, obviously I like to make sure the tutor is qualified. So I have a PhD in biology, I have a master's in chemistry, I have years of experience teaching at the college level and tutoring my students after class. Okay? Many of my students have moved on to graduate school, medical school, pharmacy school. I think I'm qualified. My approach is very simple. I try to help you understand the why behind both biology and chemistry. I help you think like a scientist because memory can only go so far. When I used to memorize stuff, first it took a long time. I don't have a very good memory. Then when the time for the exam came, I started second guessing myself. Did I really say this? Or and the moment I start asking, did I really, I was lost. Okay? But when you memorize the why and apply what you understand to the particular question in the exam, then it's easy. You don't need to worry about remembering. You don't need to worry about whether you're right or wrong. You don't need to second guess. It's like night and day. Okay? And I use a two-pronged approach. I like to compare this to a baby learning to talk. Have you ever seen a baby memorizing a list of vocabulary? No. How do they learn? They learn because they hear mommy and daddy and their siblings, and maybe they hear the TV. They hear other people talking, and they start absorbing the language. Is it effortless? Not really. You've seen a baby trying to get something, and it's not the right word, or they're not pronouncing it right, and mommy cannot understand, and they struggle until finally the baby makes himself understood. Yes, you have to try. But altogether, I'll call it a very easy way to learn. I'll be honest, when my daughter was born, I told my husband, let's make a deal. You are going to speak in English to her. Okay. I'm going to speak only Spanish. By the time she was 4, she was bilingual. She was perfectly fluent in both languages. She never confused one language with the other, in which case she was doing better than me, because sometimes I do tend to sleep. She could read and write a little bit. I'm not going to say it was completely effortless. I know she'd get frustrated when she wanted me to say something in English and I wouldn't. But all things considered, it was much easier than memorizing vocabulary list. So what I use is a two-pronged approach that kind of tries to replicate what the baby does. To cut down on memorization, I have a number of documents with the step-by-step directions on how to do some of the things that are a little bit more complicated in chemistry. Okay? Let me give you an example, Lewis structures. Oh my goodness, I hated Lewis structures when I was an undergraduate. Because nobody taught me how to do it. Okay? And it was guessing. I was so happy when the chapter was over. So then a couple of chapters later, the professor says, well, if you write the Lewis structure, then you'll understand what I'm explaining. Oh no. And they kept coming back. We'll get to that. It's the gift that keeps on giving. You're going to be using Lewis structures all the time. So a few years ago, I got together with a few friends that teach chemistry too, and we tried to come up with a set of directions on how to write Lewis structures. At the time, it was good most of the time, not always, and my friend said, that's good enough. Let's just make sure that every molecule we put in an exam can be done using these directions. That's good enough. I wasn't satisfied. It took me still an extra year, but now I have a set of directions that if you follow them the way they're written, you always get the answer right. So then I tell my students, okay, here you have a worksheet. That's the second step. Print the directions, print your worksheet, and put them side by side. So when you're doing the first couple of problems, be reading the directions. This is what you do first. Then you do this, followed by this. By the time they get to the third, fourth problem, they realize they're not looking the directions all the time. They're not skipping steps, okay? They're just not looking at the paper because they remember what comes next. By the time they get to the end of the worksheet, they don't look to the directions at all. They know them. How did they learn them? They never sat down and memorized the steps. Again, it's not effortless. They had to do the worksheet. But it's so much easier than memorizing the steps. And like I said, you follow the steps the way I teach them to you, you always get the right answer. Seems a good deal. Okay? But especially, you'll realize that I try to focus and try not to memorize unless it's absolutely necessary, which sometimes it is. Where does Meet Dr. B come from? Many of my students have been calling me Dr. B for years, and I like it. I worked real hard to get my PhD, so yes, I do like being called doctor, but Dr. B sounds friendly, approachable, so that's who I am, Dr. B. I told you I was born in Spain. That means I'm fluent in both English and Spanish, and I can tutor you in either language. So if you're ready to stop feeling overwhelmed, if you're ready to start understanding what you're studying, if you're ready to get good grades, I'd be glad to help. So if you want to work with me on a one-on-one basis, if you want to work through some of my practice problems and worksheets, if you want help to prepare for an exam, in the video description there's a link to my Wyesand Turing profile. You can make an appointment, and I'll be glad to help you.